Let's get started today in child's pose. So just open those knees out. We'll do a wide-legged child pose, knees out to the outer edges of your yoga mat, toes together, and just sit down onto those heels. And go ahead and extend those arms out in front of you and place your head softly to the ground. And as usual, let's get started. Just slowing down our mind and evening our breath. And maybe start to pay attention to where you're feeling your breath. And just slipping into presence, being present in this moment. And as you inhale, try to make those even with your exhales. Let's just take a few minutes here in silence. And just see how even and steady you can make your breath and your mind, syncing them into one. Maybe at this point your breath is deep enough that you can feel your rib cage expand. And then you exhale and melt a little further into the ground. And keeping that even and steady breath that you have cultivated, let's place those hands firmly on the ground and engage those arms and just start to pull your way up to tabletop. So even out those legs, hands firmly on the ground. And let's just slowly wake up with some cat and cows. So inhaling and dropping that belly to the ground, head tilts up. And then exhale to curve that spine and hollow your belly. Inhaling and opening and head to sky. And exhale, pull that chin to chest, hollow your back. Just take that at your own pace. Inhaling and exhaling. Let's just move through a few more breaths. One more inhale. And then one more exhale. And then let's all land back at tabletop, finding a neutral position. From here, let's lift your right leg up off the ground so that it's at a 90-degree bend. And what we're going to do is make sure those hands are firmly planted under your shoulders and start making circles with that right leg. Just choose one direction. We'll reverse it in a moment. Just nice and slow and big movements for that hip. Really try to find as big of a range of movement as you can. And once you get down to the bottom, why don't you reverse that? Take it the opposite direction. Go through a couple more circles here. And then once your leg gets to the bottom on your next circle, just set your knee down. And then from here, let's tuck our toes and sit down onto your feet. So coming up into a seated position here. We're just gonna stretch our wrists out a little bit. So maybe just give them a little flick forward and back and up and down. And maybe do some circles as well. And then from here, let's take our left hand out in front of you. With your right hand, pull those left fingertips down toward the ground. And maybe now is a good time to remind you to take some deep breaths in and out through your nose. And from here, let's explore some micro movements. So maybe tilt your wrist to the left and the right, but being very mindful of that tension you feel in your left wrist. And then let's take that left hand still, fingertips facing you. Left hand or right hand will pull those left fingertips in toward your face. So now we'll feel that stretch along the outer part of your left wrist. And again, remembering that breath in these moments of quiet and slow movements. And let's switch the hands. So now let's take our right fingertips, facing them down toward the ground and pulling back with that left hand. All the while stretching our toes. And it's okay if you need to come out of that as well. If it's too intense, you can always come out of anything we do. And then let's explore the micro movements on this side. So just take your wrist right and left. Just give it a little tilt if that feels good. And if it doesn't, you can just stay where we were. And then let's go ahead and take those fingertips of the right hand, make them face you, and pull in with the left hand. Feeling our stretch in the outer side of that right wrist now. Now take a deep inhale through your nose here and open your mouth and exhale, let it out. And then place your hands to the ground, back to tabletop. Untuck those toes if you're still tucked. And then separate those legs, coming back to table. This time, left leg will come off the ground. And let's take circles with our left leg. So nice, big, open hip circles. Slow and controlled. Knowing that we're not in a rush and there's no hurry to get to the next pose. So once you get to the bottom, let's go ahead and reverse those hip circles the opposite direction. Make a few more rounds on that left leg. And then place the left knee back to the ground, coming to tabletop. And let's grab our blocks now. Take both blocks, and we're going to place them out in front of you. We're going to go back into child's pose. So toes will go together, knees will go to the outer edges of your mat. And you're going to use your blocks for your hands to rest on. And you're just going to try to dip that chest toward the floor. You may not make it all the way. Your head may not be able to touch the ground. And that's okay. Just feeling how different this is from just our regular child's pose on the ground. You'll probably feel a little bit of tension in the shoulder area. And if this feels intense, though, you can always take those blocks off to the side and just go back into your regular child's pose. Just enjoy a few more breaths here. Then slowly begin to make your way back up to tabletop. So finding that nice, stable position. And from here, we're actually going to pull the blocks in a teensy. Actually, I say that, but we're not. Just a joke. Okay, let's leave your right hand. I'm just seeing if you guys are listening. Leave your right hand on the block, and then let's lift your left hand up to the sky. And then take that left hand and thread it under the right. So your left shoulder will go down to the floor. And then gently set that head down to the ground. And extend that block. If your arm is bent, you can extend that block so you have a nice long right arm. Take one more deep inhale here. And then exhale to slowly come back up. And then switching that block to the left. We're going to take an inhale, right arm up to the sky. Exhale, threading that under the left, right shoulder to the ground. And left arm can scooch out so that it's straight. Take one more deep inhale here. And then exhale to slowly make your way out of that. And we can move those blocks off to the side. And then from here, let's come into a downward facing dog. So tuck those toes, booty to the sky, hands firmly on the ground. And pushing up out of those hands so your shoulders aren't sagging. Feel free to have a little bend in your knees if your hamstrings are tight. Just take a few moments to feel what you feel in this position. Let's take an inhale and lift that right leg off the ground a little bit. And then pull that right leg up to the top of your mat. So your right foot meets your right fingertips. And then let's drop the left knee down to the ground. And then release the left toes. And then come up to our low lunge, rolling those shoulders back. And if it feels nice here, you can lift your arms up to the sky. Take an inhale and maybe you do a little back bend here. And exhale those hands to the floor. And then from here, let's lengthen that right leg. So we come into half splits. You can also feel free to use your blocks here if you wanted to do that, to come up and stand up like that or this. I'm just going to stay on the ground today. So do whatever feels good because we're not quite warmed up so much today. Not yet anyway. Just take a few minutes here. Let's breathe into that right side of our leg. And on your next inhale, let's flatten your right foot to the ground. And then if you can, bring that left foot up and you can grab a hold of it, do that, and turn your torso to the right. We'll feel a nice stretch in that left quad. If you can't, you can always use a strap, or you can just stay in a reclining low lunge, or twisting low lunge rather. Reclining low lunge makes no sense whatsoever. Just gently tugging on that left foot. And then open that right shoulder so it's up and open toward the sky if you can, if it's available to you. And then slowly release the left foot down to the ground, hands to the ground. And then let's come up onto those left toes, hands flat to the floor. Let's step back to downward facing dog. Taking a breath there. On an inhale, let's take our left toes off the ground and bring that left foot to the front of your mat. And then lower your right knee to the ground, coming up to find the low lunge on the other side. Once you get here, rolling those shoulders back. And then if that feels good, then you can inhale and reach those fingertips to the sky. And while you're here, maybe take a breath in and release those shoulders down, but hands stay up so we just don't hold that tension in our shoulders. And on another inhale, maybe you want to lean back a little bit. And then exhale, hands to the ground. And then from here, we're going to pull ourselves back into the half splits on the other side. So left toes off the ground, on fingertips or blocks. Just finding where you feel the tension and then holding that position. And remembering your breath. And on your next inhale, coming forward so your left toes are flat on the ground. And then now let's take our right hand on the ground. And if you can lift those right toes off the ground and grab that right foot with your left hand and open the chest to the left side of your mat. taking one more inhale here, opening that left shoulder to the sky. And exhale to release your feet to the ground, hands to the ground. Come up onto those toes and then step back to downward facing dog once more. Once we get here, let's just pedal it out. So I like to come up and inhale on my toes and then exhale 1 foot down to the ground at a time. Each time inhaling as I come to my toes and exhaling the opposite leg down. So in your own time, with your breath, matching your breath with your movement, however you like to do it. Taking one more inhale and then exhale, bringing both feet back down to the ground. This time releasing those knees again to the ground. And from here, we're going to take our left leg up and around so it crosses over your right leg. We're going to come into cow face. So I'll face you for this. So your right is behind, your left is in front. Once you get there, just sit down onto your bottom. And then try to bring those feet flat to the outer edges of your body. And then inhale, nice and tall spine. And exhale to slowly make your way. It might only be here, or maybe it's further. So go to your point of comfort for this position. And know we'll be here for a little bit of time, so feel free to start at the top and maybe sink in deeper as time passes. This is also an opportunity if you want to use your blocks for your forehead. 1 or 2, you can always bring them up and have something to place your forehead on. And maybe it's a good time for you to see if you can sink a little bit deeper before we come out of this pose. And on the next inhale, let's make our way back up to that nice tall spine. And then we'll uncross your legs. So if you want to come to tabletop again, just uncross those legs so that you're back in table. Maybe give your hips a little wiggle side to side. And then from here, we're going to lift our right leg so that it's parallel to the ground and foot is flexed. And then actually your foot can be pointed. We're going to inhale and then lift that leg up to the sky. And on an exhale, pull it in toward center. Inhale to bring it out. And exhale to pull it in. Like cat and cow, but we call this tiger. Inhale, toes to sky. Exhale, pull it in. One more like that. Inhale, everything up. Exhale, pull it all in. And then release the right leg to the ground. We'll do that on the other side. So left foot will go up to the sky on an inhale. And exhale, pull it in. Inhale, looking up. Exhale in. Inhale. Just linking our breath with our movement. Exhale in. A few more times at your own pace. Last time on an inhale and an exhale. And coming back to all fours. From here, we're going to take our right leg and lift it up and around the left this time. So going into cow face on the other side, and it may seem very different in between your sides. So just know that going in. And then have a seat. And then wiggle yourself in there and get comfortable as you can. Inhale for a nice tall spine. Exhale, leaning over those legs. You can allow your spine to curve. Let's take one more deep inhale here. And on the exhale, make your way to that nice tall spine. And then we'll come back to your tabletop. Once again, today's favorite position. Give those hips another little wiggle. And then from here, let's take your right leg off the ground at 90-degree angle off to the side. Kind of like we're a dog going to the bathroom. I don't know what that pose is called, but I call it dog going to the bathroom pose. So from here, let's take and pull that right leg so it's nice and long, and then drop it down to the ground for a second. And see if your hips are in alignment with that foot, or if you need to wiggle it up a little bit if you're cheating there. And then when you're done doing that, lift your right leg off the ground and rebend it. And we're just going to go through that a few times. So extend, lower, and then we'll lift and we'll bend. And just at your own pace. And maybe you skip it. Maybe your own pace is not doing it at all. Whatever floats your boat. But who says we can't have buns of steel in yoga? Let's go through a few more breaths here. And one more up. And then when you're done, just bring it back to tabletop. From here, let's do something. I also don't know what it's called. I just start wiggling my body to the right and the left. So kind of like you're making a C with your torso. So your head and your head goes one direction, your hips go the other. If that feels good, do that. And then coming back to tabletop, let's get that same thing on the other side. We'll lift our left leg off the ground bent. We'll extend it long and then drop it down to the ground. See if those hips are in alignment, and if they are, let's just continue with that flow of lifting your left leg, bending your left leg, extending your left leg, and then dropping it to the ground. So at your own pace, remembering your breath, and keeping those movements as slow and controlled as possible. A few more breaths. And then bringing that back to all fours. From here, let's fall down onto your belly. And then let's bring those hands so your forearms are right in front of you. Coming into Sphinx pose. So pulling like you can pull your hands along your mat, lifting that chest off the ground and keeping your chin in that nice neutral position. Again, feeling free to take a block and place it in front of your forehead if that feels good. It just releases the tension in that neck. And now you have the option, if you want to stay in Sphinx, go ahead. But if you want to slip those hands out so that they're toward the outer edges of your mat, you can come into seal pose. Slightly taking those hands so they're angled out to the sides. And all the while still pulling up out of those vertebrae so they're not sagging or compressing. And again, if this is too much, just staying in Sphinx is fine too. Take one more inhale here. And on the exhale, slowly release those hands down to the ground. And let's push our way up to downward facing dog. Once we get here, let's inhale and exhale to walk your feet to the top of your mat, meeting your hands, staying down with your head to the ground. Let's inhale to come halfway up, hands to shins. And exhale, folding forward, head to the ground. Next inhale brings you all the way to the top, standing in mountain pose, hands through center. Let's take an inhale, hands to the sky. Exhale, folding forward. Inhale to come halfway up. Exhale, hands to the ground. Stepping back to plank. And then slowly lower yourself down to the ground through chaturanga. And inhale for a baby cobra here. Exhale, coming back to downward facing dog. It feels good after all those seated holds. Take an inhale here. Let's lift our right leg off the ground. Exhale to pull your right leg forward to the top of your mat. Staying on your left toes, inhale to come up. Let's flatten our left foot so we come into warrior one. So bending that right knee, your left toes are angled toward the front of your mat. Your hips are facing forward. Inhale here, and if it's available to you, exhale your hands behind your back. If it's not available to you, hands could be on hips or fists at your sacrum. Interlace those fingers and pull up out of that chest. Inhale here, maybe look up. Exhale, fall into humble warrior, hands behind your back, right alongside that right leg. Let's inhale to pull that back up, and on the exhale, those hands will go to the sky. One more inhale here. Exhale, hands to the ground, stepping back through plank, down through chaturanga. Inhale for your cobra. Exhale down to downward facing dog. This time we inhale our left foot to the sky. Exhale, left foot to the top of the mat. Coming into warrior one on the other side. Inhaling, right toes pointing forward, left knee is bent. And making sure we have those hips angled toward the front of our yoga mat. Take an inhale here. And if you want to join in humble warrior, hands will come behind your back and interlace. Inhale, chest opens to the sky. Exhale, fall down toward the earth for humble warrior. Slowly inhale to bring yourself up, releasing those hands to the sky. Taking one more inhale here. Exhale, release those hands down to the ground, stepping back through your plank, down through your chaturanga. Inhale for cobra. Exhale, back to downward facing dog. Inhale here. And exhale to step or walk to the front of your yoga mat. Inhale to come halfway up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, hands to the sky. And exhale, hands to heart center. We'll go through that just one more time. Inhale, hands high to the sky. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale to come halfway up. Exhale, hands down, back through your plank, through your vinyasa. Inhaling for your cobra. Exhaling to downward facing dog. And then on the inhale, taking that right to the sky. And exhale, pulling it forward to the top of your mat for warrior one. Inhale as you come up. Exhale, hands release behind. Inhale to look up. Exhale, humbling that warrior. Inhale, hands will come back up to the sky. Exhale through your vinyasa, so hands to the ground, coming through plank. Finding your cobra. Back to downward facing dog. Left side, inhale, left foot to the sky. Exhale, bringing that forward. Inhale, arms to the sky. Exhale, behind your back. Inhale to find that openness. And exhale to humble your warrior. Inhale, hands to the sky. Exhale, hands to the ground. Coming back through the last plank for this one. Down through chaturanga, inhaling for cobra. Exhale to downward facing dog. And just pause here. Notice what used to be a little bit of a challenge is now our easy resting position. Now let's inhale, take that right foot halfway off the ground, and then bringing your right toes to the front of your mat. This time releasing our left knee down. And then take your right foot to the outer edge of your mat, or closer that way. So just so you have a little bit more space in between your hips. And you can either stay here and feel that stretch right here in your hip, or you can come into dragon, which would bring your hands down to the ground, or I like to use a block for this too. You'll just be finding that nice stretch here in the hip. It's also helpful if your left knee is back a little bit further so you can feel that stretch. And feel free to open your right foot off the ground, so you kind of wing your dragon here. It's called winged dragon. Just feel free to do that as well once you have a little bit more openness. And then you have the choice to either stay there as you are, or if you want to come into the twisting dragon, then you would take your left hand in front of your face, and then you would open your chest to the right so it's going toward your bent leg, and just hand can be on your leg, and you're just opening that chest to the right side. And sometimes we hold this for a couple minutes, but we won't do that today. And if you're still with me, I'm going to take it a step further, but you don't have to. You can stay where you are or go back to child's pose or do whatever. But left hand will be on the ground, still twisting to the right. Take your right hand up to the sky, but take this left leg off the ground and make it so that it's parallel to the back. So now we're going to feel that right back in here, and then reach that right hand back to the back of your mat. So that left foot would be parallel with the back mat. And if you're there, let's just slowly release that left knee back down to the ground, and then untwirl out of that, coming back, thank goodness, to a regular dragon, which now feels wonderful. And from here, let's pop up on those get that left knee off the ground, and then bring the hands back down to the ground and step back to downward facing dog. Take an inhale here, open your mouth, exhale, let it out. And then inhale to lift the left leg off the ground. And then bring that left foot to the front of the mat, to your left fingertips, and then release your right knee to the ground. And then let's take that right knee back just an inch or two, and then take your left foot and inch it out toward the side of your mat. So both hands in front of you and between your legs. Inhaling here and then exhaling to your degree of comfort for the dragon pose. Igniting the fire in those hips this morning. Again, feeling free to use blocks for your forearms if needed. And then if you want to entertain a little bit more craziness, we can come into that twisting dragon. So your right hand would come to the floor. Your left chest would open to the left side. And check in on that breath and see that it's not erratic, but it's still steady, maybe a little faster. And if you want to go a little step further, you can take that left arm up to the sky and reach it behind you and then come up onto that right toe, the right foot. So you're on the blade of your right foot. It's parallel with the back mat. Take one more inhale if you're there. Even if you're not, and exhale to release that, untwisting. And then let's get those hands flat on the ground. Come up off of that right leg and step your way back to downward facing dog. Amen. And hallelujah. Take an inhale here. Exhale, let it out. One more of those, inhaling. And let it go. Hopefully you don't have any hate for the teacher. Let's drop our knees to the ground. And then bring this time, come to sit on your bottom, bringing those feet in front of you. So both legs will be nice and long out in the front. And from here, let's just go into a nice forward fold. Inhaling those hands up to the sky. And then exhale, just come down again to whatever point feels good for your back. Know that we'll be here for just a few moments so that we can release the muscles in the back side of your body. So where you start will probably not be where you end up because your muscles will be releasing as you breathe into those areas of tension. And then if you want to take this a step further, you can. We're still going to be in that forward fold, but you can take a block and you can place it under your feet, so onto your heels. No, it's just an option. And then you can forward fold over those legs, or you're totally fine to stay where we were as well. Maybe you just give it a try and realize it's not for you, and then you put it back. And you say, nope, not today. And then before we come out of this, you can remove that block, and there's one more thing I'll show you that feels really good on your arms if you can do it. But if you can take that block and maybe put it at the shortest height, depends how chubby your blocks are, and you can grab that block. Some people can't grab it, and that's okay, but if you can, boy, you'll feel a different stretch here. So that's something that's always good to do with your blocks too. And as you progress, maybe you move your block to different, I mean, I don't know who in the world can do this, but maybe someone. But you can progress with different levels of your block. So take an inhale here, and then slowly make your way out of that. And then let's bring our fingertips behind you, facing the outer side of your mat. And we're going to take our hips off the mat, and our toes will come down toward the ground on an inhale. So inhale to lift your hips up, head will tilt back. And exhale, let it all release down to the ground. We'll flow through that a couple more times. Inhale, hips off the ground, head to the sky. And exhale down. One more of those. Inhale. And then exhale, releasing it down. And then from here, we're going to bend our right leg and bring it under our left. So bending that right leg so that it's parallel to the top of your mat, taking your left over. And if this isn't something you can do for a double-seated pigeon, you can always just do cross-legged or easy pose. So finding that tension in your hips there that you feel, inhaling for a nice tall spine, and then exhale, fingertips to the ground, and then just bend over those hips wherever feels good, remembering not to overdo it. And again, this is another pose that blocks can be helpful if you're in a place to put your forehead down. You can use 1 or 2 blocks to do so, or you can use none at all. Take a few more inhales and exhales in this position. And then one last inhale, and then exhale to slowly make your way up out of this one. And then extend those legs in front of you. Maybe windshield wiper your feet to the right and left a few times before we go into the other side. And then this time, let's bring our left leg bent under the right. So parallel as you can get it to the front of that mat. Right foot on top, feet are flexed. Shins parallel to the top. Inhale, reaching those hands up to the sky. And then exhale, fingertips to the ground and folding over those bent legs for our double-seated pigeon on the other side. Now take an inhale here, and on your exhale, slowly make your way out of that. And then untangle those legs. And then come to recline on your back, taking a block with you. And then leave those feet flat on the ground. So like we're gonna go into a bridge pose. So feet are flat on the ground and bring them in toward your bottom a little bit, making sure those knees are staying tracked in instead of opening out. And we'll lift up your bottom off the ground and take your block at whatever height you want and just place it at the sacrum. So right at the bottom of your tailbone there, where the dimples are at the back of your back, the lower back. And then your hands can come down to your side or be placed on your body, whatever feels good. Just find where that feels steady. This is a really good pose to signal to our body that we're slowing down, and it triggers that parasympathetic system so we can get out of that fight and flight response that we're often in. Maybe paying attention to the rise and fall of your breath, of your belly. And then let's slowly lift your bottom off the block and release that block from underneath of you, and just let your spine fall to the ground and take a minute to get reacclimated. No rush falling back into the ground. And just neutralize that spine. And before we fall into our final resting pose, let's bend those knees in toward center. Maybe give it a little rock in and out. Just very gently after. Your spine might feel a little vulnerable after that last position. And then let's extend our right leg long to the ground. And then let's take our left knee that's bent over to the right side. So twisting over to the right, opening that left hand out to the left side, and just choosing where you want to look. Maybe it's over that left arm, maybe it's straight ahead, or maybe you're looking in for a gentler approach. One last inhale here, and exhale to slowly release and bring both knees back in. This time we hold on to our right knee, extend your left leg long, left hand to the outer edge of your right leg, right arm extends long to the side, and then twist your body to the left. One last inhale here. Exhale to slowly make your way towards center with those knees, bending them in, giving them one big squeeze. Inhaling here. And then exhale, let everything fall to the ground, legs open, toes will angle out and open out, palms facing the sky. Take up some room and get comfortable for your last position, Shavasana. And for these 1 or 2 minutes we spend here, see how much you can just melt into the earth as if you're floating on a cloud and your body becomes as weightless as possible. So as you're ready, gently start to awaken your body. Maybe wiggle those fingers and toes and begin to feel the sensation of the ground below you. And then we'll end class today by taking a deep inhale through your nose and exhale, open through your mouth and let it go. Thank you for practicing with me today.